trying to avoid.
Australia's microcap companies, those valued between $50 and $300 million, have seen some spectacular returns during the recent bull run. As market sentiment has picked up, so has the appetite for investment at the speculative end of the market. But experts warn that the Cinderella stories are few and far between, and the chances of striking it rich on a microcap are slim at best. Neil Woolridge reports.
A rising tide might lift all boats, but on the stock market, some get a bigger boost than others.
Our shares were 9 cents and now they're 50, so we've had a five-fold increase in cap.
A couple of years ago, or even a year and a half ago, we were trading around 50 cents, and now we're sort of in the $2.50 range, so got to be happy with that.
And as the local bourse has rallied over the past year, it's been some of the market minnows who've enjoyed the best gains. The online lottery operator Jumbo Interactive is up 37%, the aerospace materials maker Quickstep Holdings has gained 44%, and the prepaid debit card provider eMerchants is an eye-popping 541% higher.
A lot of entrepreneurs are looking at the Australian markets to get their companies up and running, just like I did. I actually looked in the United States before I ended up listing the company here in Australia, so it's good to be able to stay here in Australia.
At this year's Microcap conference in Melbourne, CEOs from companies worth between $50 and $300 million were spruiking their wares to an audience eager to find out who might be the next big thing.
Earnings, I think, for a lot of these microcaps are always a challenge. I mean, they're all in that gestation phase, and they have to grow at a disproportionate rate to support the valuation that they're often priced on.
Our share register in those last 12 months has really had a dramatic change, and where once it was predominantly retail, it's now more institutional investors.
But investing in the smaller players is perhaps not for the faint of heart. Satellite operator Newsat survived an anxious 3-month suspension from trade earlier in the year as it worked out a $600 million funding deal to launch its second satellite. Although the company has put that drama behind it, Chief Executive Adrian Ballantyne remains frustrated that Newsat is frozen out of Australian government contracts.
We should be the preeminent supplier to Australia for satellite needs because we're Australia's preeminent satellite provider. And what we do, for example, for the US government, for other governments around the world, we can just as easily do for Australia.
While some microcaps have enjoyed stellar returns this year, the overall picture isn't so rosy. The median return for microcaps over the past 12 months has been negative 24% against a market gain of 20%.
And even if you go further, those that aren't generating any profits or those that are exposed to unacceptable levels of financial risk, then that median return becomes a negative 35%, which is over 50% differential to the overall market performance.
Elio D'Amato says more than 80% of Australia's listed companies are valued under $300 million, which is why the local bourse is considered higher risk by overseas investors.
Around 81% of those companies are actually exposed to unacceptable levels of financial risk. And you break that even down, 73% of them actually don't generate a profit. Only 17% of them have ever paid a dividend.
And he warns that nearly 1 in 10 microcaps have not traded at all over the past year, meaning investors in those companies have had their money tied up in a stock that's going nowhere and with no way out.
BlackBerry shares have plunged 16%, the company announcing it's dropping its sale process and dumping its CEO. The struggling smartphone company's biggest shareholder, Fairfax Financial, has abandoned its proposal to buy BlackBerry and take it private. Instead, Fairfax and a group of investors have come up with $1 billion investment plan.
I think they kind of see that all they need is a little bit more cash and a little bit more time. Maybe they're seeing enough things that they're on the right footing already.
BlackBerry also announced its CEO of less than 2 years, Thorsten Heinz, is stepping down. Earlier this year, the company launched a touchscreen phone in a bid to take on heavyweights Apple and Samsung. BlackBerry has since reported a quarterly loss of nearly $1 billion. Well, the race that stops a nation thinned out volumes on